First thing I want to talk about is, we all know in here kind of what has transpired and everything, but the one thing I want to mention to start out with is many of you probably watched the games online and the streaming video, which, from what I understand, they did a tremendous job of doing that. But what you probably couldn't see when you were there, or through that venue, but if you were there, is how many people we had from this community up there. That championship game on Saturday evening, they set an attendance mark that night with over 3,500 people in the ballpark, and over half of those patrons were actually from our community. Wow. And so if you had seen how many people from this community were 12 hours away from here supporting us, it was tremendous. We'd pull up to the ballpark in all of our games, and it seemed that as we went later and later into the tournament, more people kept coming up and showing up. And they had a Mexican restaurant that was about a block from the ballpark, and our fans pretty much took over that restaurant for their pregame festivities. With their margaritas and having a good time, and their pregame drinks. But it was neat because our bus would pull right by there, and they would know our bus was coming, and they'd all come outside and they'd all cheer for our kids as the bus comes by. And then when we got off the bus and you walked into the stadium, we would get there an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes early, and come to find out, there'd be about 100 people from our community already in the ballpark, cheering for our guys as they just walk inside. And it was a tremendous atmosphere just to play. And I go back to when we took infield and outfield for that championship game, and the ballpark played Louisiana Saturday night and so the whole place is, you imagine, there's 1,500 Cajuns and they're singing that song and the echoing and everything that's going on. The atmosphere was tremendous, and our guys, really loved all of that. And then we played Western Oklahoma, which, if you do not know, they had one player from the state of Oklahoma. All the rest of the players were Latin players, most of them from Curacao and Dominican Republic, and then they said a lot of them were from Massachusetts, but I'm trying to figure out how the Dominican kids, they say they're from Massachusetts, because if I had to picture, I wouldn't picture Massachusetts as a Latin state.
There's a big port here.
Yeah. So it was tremendous to see that, because it was kind of a festive game, because when they went to take infield and outfield, they played the Latin song, which we couldn't understand any of the words unless you spoke Spanish, but their whole side is kind of singing that song. And so it was a very festive pregame festivities, and a very neat atmosphere for our players to play in. And what a better way to start than, we're the home team and we go out and our pitcher strikes out the side. And from that situation, that took all of the emotion, all the momentum that they could have had in that situation, because even being, they were from Oklahoma, their campus is 3 hours away from that ballpark. They had a lot of their campus people, and a lot of their community was there as well. So it took them completely out of the ball game when our pitcher goes out there and strikes out the side. And then you go, we were able to score 2 runs in the first inning with a couple of stolen bases, and then they have a defensive miscue, and then we're kind of off to the races. And the second run we got in the first inning was on a 2-out base hit by Zach Hawkins, which was our 5-hole. And if you know anything about the season and kind of the season he didn't get to play much, because he was our starting first baseman last year as a freshman, had a tremendous year for us last year, but he got hurt. He had knee surgery in November, which he was supposed to be back for us at the start of our season, but the recovery time took him 2 or 3 extra weeks into our spring season. When he got back healthy with his knee, all of a sudden he broke his hamate bone in his hand. He had to have surgery and have that removed, so he didn't get back to being able to be healthy till really the last 4 or 5 weeks of our season. And he's the guy that was actually named the MVP of the championship game, with having 3 RBIs and having 3 hits.